You ever see a new leader take charge, look at who they pick for their team, their cabinet, their inner circle, and you just scratch your head and think, wait, that guy? It always seems to be their friends, their old allies. And look, it's so easy to just write that off as simple favoritism, right? But what if it's actually something else? What if it's a cold, calculated strategy, all based on an unspoken rule of power? Yeah, let's take a real-world example to chew on. When the late Nigerian president Muhammadu Buhari first started making his appointments, this was the exact criticism people threw at him. The public just saw a leader surrounding himself with a bunch of familiar faces, and yeah, the complaints, they started rolling in almost right away. And that really gets to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? Our first instinct is to just slap a label on it, cronyism. Case closed. But what if we just pause for a second and peel back a layer? Could this be less about rewarding your buddies and way more about a leader's most basic instinct, survival? Okay, so this brings us to the core argument, the big idea. In the, let's call it the high-stakes game of power, being good at your job, being competent, it's actually not the number one thing a leader is looking for. Nope, there is another quality that they see as completely, 100% non-negotiable. See, when you're in power, you're weighing two things, and they are not created equal. First, you've got trust. That's everything. It's the primary thing you look for, because it's all about character. It's who a person is, and you can't really teach that. And then you've got competence. It's important, sure, but it's secondary. It's all about performance. But here's the catch. Without trust, that same competence, that skill, it can flip and become a massive threat. Just think about it for a second. A brilliant, super skilled person on your team who isn't loyal to you, well, they aren't an asset. They are a danger. They're basically a rebel in waiting, armed with all the skills and knowledge you gave them, just biding their time. And if you're the leader, that's not just a problem. That's a direct threat to your existence. So is this just some cynical rule for politicians? Absolutely not. If you want to see this principle in its most extreme, high-stakes form, you got to look at one of the most elite organizations on the entire planet, the U.S. Navy SEALs. These guys have pretty much perfected a system for picking teammates where survival is, literally on the line every single day. And this matrix, it shows you exactly how the SEALs size people up. It's fascinating. So look at that top left box. Someone with high competence, a real top performer, but low trust. To the SEALs, that person is a toxic threat. They're out, gone. Now look at the bottom right. High trust, but maybe a little low on competence. That person, well, they can be trained. They can be developed. The SEALs would much rather have a loyal teammate they can build up than a rock star performer they can't trust. The ideal, of course, is that top right corner, high on both. And when the SEALs talk about trust, man, it goes so, so deep. We're not just talking about trusting someone to have your back in a firefight. It's everything. As the old saying goes, I may trust you with my life, but do I trust you with my money or my wife? That's a whole other level. It's about total, absolute integrity in every single part of your life. And that is the price of admission to the inner circle. All right, so if this insane level of trust is basically the currency of power, then the big question is, when and how do you actually earn it? Well, it turns out the timing is absolutely everything. And here is a fundamental, unshakable law of power. The second someone gets into that top spot, the window for forming any new, genuine, trust-based relationships, it just slams shut. From that moment on, any new connection is based on the power itself, not on some real, authentic bond. So what this means is there's really only one path into that inner circle. You have to forge those bonds before any power exists. You have to build that relationship in the dark, so to speak. That's where you prove your character, where you show your loyalty when there's nothing obvious to gain. And only then, only if you've done that, are you granted access when the lights finally come on. But, and this is a huge but, there's a massive, glaring downside to this whole strategy. What happens when a leader pulls it off? They surround themselves with loyal, trustworthy friends who, well, just aren't very good at their jobs. And this, right here, is the leader's dilemma. Because here's the fatal flaw in the plan. A leader can feel totally secure, right? Protected by this wall of loyal allies. But if that team can't actually get anything done, if they can't deliver results, then that power is just going to crumble from the inside out. Loyalty by itself can't fix a country's problems. The whole operation will eventually just sabotage itself straight into irrelevance. So, a smart leader knows they can't just pick one or the other. They have to proactively build the right kind of team. That means they got to go out and find people who are both loyal and competent. And if those people don't just magically appear, well, then the leader's job is to create them, to intentionally develop their people into an inner circle that can both protect them and get the job done. And all of this leaves us with the one big question at the heart of this whole thing. After you weigh the desperate need for survival against the absolute need for results, what do you think is ultimately more dangerous to a leader? A brilliant, competent rival you can never fully trust, or a loyal, incompetent friend who just can't deliver? That's a choice every single leader eventually has to face.